All right, so we still have folks joining, but I suggest we get started. I'm super excited for our webinar today. Our webinar, Promise and Pitfalls, Navigating AI for Fundraising as an Executive Director. And I want to say upfront that I typically work with executive directors, which is the reason that everything I do is geared at executive directors. If you're not an executive director, you're obviously still more than welcome. I had consultants reach out to me, can they join? I had, development officers ask whether they can join. Of course, everyone can join. I'm honestly super excited to have this conversation today because I feel it's something that is not discussed enough currently. And particularly, and here I'm coming to our first slide, I think there is not a really well-balanced viewpoint of AI and what AI can do for us in the nonprofit sector right now. And that is my goal for today, that we all develop and think about ways where we can harness the promises that AI and all sorts of AI tools that are out there and basically cropping up by the day, how we can harness the promises. So make us more effective, make us more efficient, write grants, offload some of the tedious day-to-day tasks that we have on our plates, while also obviously, and that is so important, considering the pitfalls. So the things that we hear about, privacy concerns, obviously, ethical concerns, staff maybe not being ready to even consider that, or people feeling threatened that their jobs might go away. These are all very, very serious concerns, and we need to be aware of them. And the reason why I'm holding this webinar is because it would be amazing if we all could focus more on the work that we are actually here to do, right? Helping people, helping animals, saving the environment. So this is why we are all in the nonprofit sector. It's not because we want to fundraise, right? It's not because we want to post on social media, but this is the thing we have to do. So if we can find a way to make that type of work, which is not our actual work, that's not where we create value, right? If there is a way for us to use AI to offload or take on some of that tedious work, how amazing would that be? And with that being said, I am not an expert. I'm just excited about the opportunity to level the playing field, especially for small organizations, right? Depending on which data you're looking at, 60% of all nonprofit organizations out there have budgets of below $500,000, which means that most of them do not have development staff. They don't have a communications officer. They just don't have the resources to do a lot of the things that are required to effectively raise funds. And that is the reason why I'm hosting this webinar. I'm not an expert, but I have used AI tools for basically since the beginning of the year. And I want to share some of my experience and hope that it will help some of you develop that balanced understanding of, what can it do, what can't it do, and what are some of the risks that I need to consider. All right, so that's for us today. So what's on the agenda? As I mentioned, first we'll understand and consider what can AI do and what can't it do. And then I want to provide some very tangible and practical use cases on how to use AI effectively. I'll primarily work with ChatGPT because honestly, it's just such an effective tool. There are many, many chatbots out there, and some like Bard better, others swear on Claude. I just work with ChatGPT a lot. And I'm also happy to talk about other tools that are out there, and I'll share a link with lots of resources. Maybe I'll just share this link right now because I don't want to forget. I feel I might be forgetting. So here we go. All right, so that's on our agenda. Feel free to ask questions if you have any, if you would like clarifications, if you have examples that you would like to share, or any sort of concerns, feel free to come off mute, raise your hand. Ideally, this would be a conversation, and I really, really want to hear your perspectives, because I think it's a fascinating topic, and we can just all learn from each other, because it's an evolving situation, right? Some of us refer to it as the Wild West. So, all right, so that's on our agenda. Let's get started with a poll. I would like to know, what's your experience level? So I have 3 options for you. You're an entire novice. You've never used any sort of AI tool, no ChatGPT, no, let's say, Firefly's note taker. Second option is you have some experience. So you have played around with it, but really not fully, fully understood how to use this best. And then the last option would be that you're a frequent user. All right. Votes are still coming in. Okay, so 90% of you have responded. So let's end the poll, share the results. So 60% of everyone in this room are entirely new to the entire field. Have not ever used any sort of AI tool. 40% say they have some experience, and 1 person is in here who says that they are a frequent user. I would love to hear from you and your experience. Okay, so I stopped sharing the results, and let's continue with our agenda. First, I want to mention a few more things about myself so that you know who I am. A few people have been joining us a little later. So my name is Anne. I am based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I used to be an executive director myself before I, with a few career stops in between, became a consultant, now focusing on executive directors, as I mentioned before, right? So my mission is to help executive directors become more effective. And this webinar is exactly one of these ways in which I think you can become more effective, because AI tools can take on some of those tedious tasks which take away from your focus on actually providing programming, helping people, helping animals, whatever you do, right? And I never thought that I would be an early adopter of AI. I mean, I'm not a techie. I'm usually not an early adopter of anything. In fact, this is, you can't see it. So this is whatever. So this is a robot, my kid's robot, and I honestly don't know how to use it. So that's just an example. I'm typically not an early adopter, but AI really got me very early on, and I've been using it a lot. Again, as I said, since the beginning of the year. So I think OpenAI released ChatGPT, I think in November or something. And I think I was already chatting frantically in February or whatever. So, and that is, I just want to share my experience. So that's about me. Now let's dive into what AI can do and what it can't do. While we are doing that, if you would like, feel free to share some highs and lows of your use of AI tools, whichever that is. Share the tools that share the tools that you have used, whether that is, social media post creation tools like Tablio or Jasper, or whether that is a note taker. Have you worked with Otter? Have you worked with Fireflies? Yeah, just share in the chat. Sandy says she hasn't used anything. That's totally fine. Someone is asking, are you sharing the recording link and the chat links with us after the meeting? Yes, I will. All right, I think these are all the questions so far. So Calliope says she has been drafting emails, getting started on a draft for grant answers. Great use case. Yeah, editing emails and letters to be punchier. What about plagiarism concerns? We'll dive into that. Okay, let me continue with, you know, what is the promise? What are the pitfalls? So let's just imagine this is a fictionary story of Bob, executive director of a small nonprofit organization. Bob has 3 staff, and just like most executive directors that I have met so far, and it's no one's fault, it's more the fault of, you know, the low overhead ratio that we have in our sector, right? So nobody wants to pay for fundraising expenses, the executive director's salary. Everyone wants their donation to go directly to the, you know, the kids or the cats or whatever you are serving, right? Everyone wants their donation to go there directly to support programs. So no overhead means you are overloaded. And I have been there too, right? I've been an executive director, and, you know, it's a lot to juggle at the same time. You have board concerns on the one hand. You need to run programming, obviously. You know, there's probably strategy at the back of your mind. You have this strategic plan, you haven't looked at it, and you should review it, and probably should even start a new strategic planning process in the near future. It's just a lot to do at the same time, because there are meetings and emails, and then your gala is coming up. And of course, there are staff issues. There's always one issue with staff. And since you don't have any fundraising support, you have so many grants to write. So Bob is overwhelmed, and then comes across this article. So that's an article that was just released a few days ago, a study by MIT in the journal Science. So that's a peer-reviewed journal, you know, very recognized as a journal. And in this study, researchers conducted an experiment where they had mid-level professionals used ChatGPT to execute on writing tasks. So they had, you know, one cohort that used ChatGPT and another cohort that did not use ChatGPT. And what they found is that 40%, so those that used ChatGPT became 40% more effective, so they were faster, and their output quality also improved by 18%. You can find that study. Actually, I have that study here. If you want to read up on it, it's quite interesting. And it's literally just a few days old, right? Here we go. That is the study. So Bob thinks, okay, I'm overwhelmed. I need to write so many grants. I will use ChatGPT. So he gets busy. He finds all sorts of grants, grant opportunities out there, writes grants, writes more grants. And what happens is that 12 months later, he still has no money. Big question is, what happened? And there are a variety of reasons, right? Or there could be a variety of reasons. This is a made-up story, which could be real, obviously. Just want to hear a few thoughts or opinions, or, you know, raise your hand or post in the chat. Any ideas? Okay, so Miranda and Liana said, okay, we have actually, Miranda and Liana said they didn't have good relationships with the funders. Absolutely possible, right? Because as many of us know, or we should know, the success of a grant application usually does not exclusively depend on the quality of your writing or whether you wrote the application in the first place. It depends a lot on your relationship with the funder and how you build that relationship. Have you reached out to them? Do you have a good understanding of what they really want outside of what they write on their website, right? So it's about the relationship. So Rita says the human voice, right? So if this sounds entirely generic, I mean, how do you stand out? Kristen says fit with the funder, right? That's what you would find out if you reach out to the funder, talk to them, Helen says, didn't personalize exactly. If you just ask ChatGPT, okay, write me a grant application for my youth development organization. I mean, that's super generic, right? So how do you stand out? Didn't meet grant requirements. Sure, that's always a possibility. Exactly, didn't. Toby says the right thing. Exactly. So yeah, so that's absolutely possible. Another possibility could also be, and that is again what ChatGPT would not tell you, grants are maybe not the right strategy for this organization, right? So this organization might only be like 3-4 years old, and they don't have the outcomes and the track record yet that warrants, or that warrants for them to actually actively be seeking grants. So the strategy might be off. So these are all, these are just some limitations, right? So we can be super efficient at doing things right. So we can use ChatGPT, for example. Again, as I said, I'll use ChatGPT a lot as a, as an example. We can get really good at doing things right. We can use ChatGPT to become very efficient at writing social media posts. We can also get really, really good at it. That does not say that social media posts are the most effective thing for us to do. That depends on our strategy. And ChatGPT will not tell you what your strategy is unless you ask the right question, right? So we have opportunities, as I said. It's all about the balance, right? Finding the balance. When is ChatGPT a good thing to use? And when is ChatGPT or any AI tool, right? When is it not the right thing to use? Or when and how do you use it? So now I would love to hear from you, because my goal, as you remember in the beginning, is to find that balanced viewpoint. So of course, the extreme is never the right solution, or usually not the right solution, right? In anything in life. So if you want to share in the chat, I would be curious to hear what you think are some of the risks of blindly adopting AI tools, which would be just like, we are all in, we write all of our grants, no limitations. And then on the other hand, if you also want to consider or share what you think are some of the risks of ignoring these tools and AI advances. Toby says, blindly adopting AI tools might lead us to wrong outputs, right? The benefit would be just to get started, on something. Melissa says that if we ignore these tools, we are missing opportunities to do more with minimal resources, which is the unfortunate reality in the nonprofit sector for all of us. The risk of ignoring that others will have an advantage. Yeah, absolutely true. I mean, I'm all in for an abundance mindset, but if everyone else, let's just assume everyone else is using these tools and you don't, then that just puts you at a big disadvantage, because you just don't make efficient use of your resources. A risk could also be that charitable patrons, your donors, your funders lose faith in the organization because they feel, they can't really trust the organization. Okay, so a benefit would also be to shore up deficits, for example, a staff person who is not a strong writer. So I think these are all great considerations. So why don't we dive in to some actual use cases and discuss how we could circumvent some of the pitfalls in using the right prompts and using the right considerations. So since a lot of you have asked for that, and I'll stop sharing my slideshow for a minute. Since a lot of you have asked for it, I prepared a use case of a grant application. Oh, sorry, let me go back for 1 second. So what I want to show is, oops. That was our example too, right? So what I want to show is, on the one hand, we have the promise of getting help with grant writing. So that was the #1 concern. I asked everyone on the registration form, what is one of your concerns, or what would you like to have help with? I forget what the exact question was, but everyone was, or what are you interested in? Or what is one question that you have? And everyone said, how can I use AI tools to help with grant writing? And one pitfall, and we've touched on some of them already, is plagiarism, sounding canned, making up facts. ChatGPT is known for making up facts or creating references that are actually not real. And then in our example earlier, right, ignoring strategic considerations. So grant writing might not be the right thing for your stage in the nonprofit life cycle. So it might just be the entirely wrong approach for you. So we always need to adopt a human perspective on everything that we do. So, but what I want to do is walk you through specifically how can we write a grant with ChatGPT. Okay, so let me share my, not Keynote, but Safari. Here we go. So I prepared all my prompts and everything that I need beforehand, because I don't want you to having to watch me type. So what I have prepared is, and that's all, I took the, I created a boilerplate document for the organization Big Brothers, Big Sisters, the national organization, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. So everything that I created here, I took off their website, the mission, the vision, everything I want to know about, or everything that, they shared about their organization on the website. I also created an overview of one of their programs. I just copy pasted that, and then a few outcomes. So basically, the core elements of any sort of boilerplate. Of course, you can have more, but that's just what I focused on. So that's my one ingredient. Then the second ingredient is ChatGPT. And I think a lot of you, right, 60% said no experience whatsoever. So that's the surface, or that's the interface. That's what it's called, right? I'm not a tech expert. So that's the interface that you will see. It's just a chatbot. You can ask whatever you want. You can, you can type whatever you want in that little box down there. So what I also created, okay, so now I need to pull up my my prompts. So my first prompt would be, and I'm copy pasting this. I tell ChatGPT what I wanted to do. I say, you're a master grant writer in the nonprofit sector, and I would like you to help me with writing a grant application. First, I'll provide some information on the grant maker. Then I will provide some information about my nonprofit. Do you understand? And then ChatGPT says, yes, I understand, will help me. Great, awesome. So where are the application guidelines? So this is a real foundation. Some of you may know them. They're the Max and Victoria Dreyfus Foundation. And here I am looking at their grant application guidelines, right? So I'm copy pasting that. Here are the, sorry, I have this prompt, but I'll quickly type it. Here are the grant application guidelines. Please remember them. Okay. So, and what I often do, or, there are a variety of ways you can do that. You can split that in two, or you just copy paste it in here. Typically, I just put quotation marks so that ChatGPT knows, okay, so these are the grant guidelines, or whatever I'm providing as information. So I enter that. Okay, ChatGPT gives me lots of feedback based on the information. I will help you craft a strong application for the foundation. Awesome. So that's exactly what I wanted to do, right? Let's start by gathering the necessary details about your nonprofit organization. Okay, so now ChatGPT makes a suggestion of what I could provide as information. So I have prepared that right in my boilerplate thing. So I'm copy pasting that. I'm saying here is some information on my nonprofit organization. Please remember the information. Okay, so copy pasting. Okay, ChatGPT says, thank you for providing this information. ChatGPT says it has noted the key details, mission, vision, and program outcomes, exactly what I told you, right? And that it will use this information to craft the grant application. So it's actually guiding me through the process. Every time you make a request with ChatGPT, it gives you something else because, it draws in real time on information it has stored. So the next prompt I had prepared was, where are my prompts? Here. Please create a summary of the organization's purpose and programs based on the grant application's guidelines above. Okay, please create a summary of the organization's purpose, because that is actually part of, let's ask ChatGPT about the requirements. What are the requirements of the funder based on the application guidelines I shared earlier? Which documents are required? So since I have fed that information, I can now ask questions. Let's see. I mean, I have actually applied to this grant before in real time when I was still in the nonprofit sector and not a consultant. And I always found this wall of text super overwhelming. And I reread that many times because they actually want a variety of attachments. So what they want is a summary of the organization's purpose, a summary of how potential funding would be utilized, and a letter of request, and then a few attachments. Awesome. Okay, so then let's start with the summary of the organization's purpose. I put that in as a request. ChatGPT starts working. Okay, so now ChatGPT is summarizing what I fed earlier, right, as the boilerplate language. Ooh, that's pretty long. They said concise. I think they said concise, right? Need to check. Based summary, a concise and straightforward summary of your organization's purpose. So that's not concise or straightforward. Please make it. Let's see. That is not concise. I mean, it's a little more concise. Let's say, make it, because we often have to deal with character limits, right? 300 characters. I hope that's less. Oh, okay, that works. All right, so now we have that. And I guess I don't necessarily, oh, wait, let's see whether it can create a good letter of request, because the foundation actually has very strict requirements of what this letter is supposed to look like. So let's ask ChatGPT, please create a letter of request based on the guidelines above. All right. Okay, that sounds good. So what I would do now, and here we are coming on the pitfalls, right? So I cannot trust that ChatGPT actually considered all of the guidelines that the Max and Victoria Dreyfus Foundation recommended, right? So what I would do now, and now I need to fact check, and I need to consider, did ChatGPT do a really good job at this? So fact check, I mean, since we are not asking for a little story or any sort of data, okay, so here it says, okay, amount requested, that is something I forgot, thank you, ChatGPT. Okay, so, but the whole point is I have a draft, right? Now I need to have my personal perspective and my experience to review, is this actually good, right? That's why I'm an expert in fundraising, because I can assess the quality of this thing. But I'm saving tons of time in actually drafting the whole thing. Something else that I also like doing is ask ChatGPT for feedback, right? So something, I think I have exactly. Another prompt would be, so there are the foundation guidelines and my application. So now I'm asking ChatGPT to basically review why or why not would the foundation accept this request based on I could also add to that prompt based on the grant guidelines. Okay, so ChatGPT says, okay, look, I don't know because I'm an AI language model. But it also says the letter of request created based on the guidelines provided aims to highlight the organization's purpose. Okay, fine, in a compelling manner. It shows the alignment of my organization, gratitude. It's important to ensure that the letter is tailored to the specific priorities and guidelines of the. Okay, so it should clearly demonstrate unique value, effectiveness, and impact. Okay. So now ChatGPT says, okay, I should provide success stories and program evaluations. All right, so all things that I can do. And yeah, that's basically the, we have lots of questions. So I'll stop sharing for a second. So that is this is the summary of how you can use ChatGPT to draft. It's all about drafting, right? Not actually submitting without reviewing. How you can use ChatGPT to write your grant applications. So, so we have a few questions. Do you have to say, do you remember them? And Mafe says, it is not necessary. It's capable to recall. Yeah, so sometimes ChatGPT says, sometimes ChatGPT draws on previous information, but sometimes it doesn't. So it comes up with a generic answer, right? So yeah, so Liana says that's Miranda. What did Miranda say? Okay. So Sandy says, we are a young org. When applying for grants using ChatGPT, will it create text that is not accurate about our org or make us sound more aged and mature? So, I mean, and that's why I fed information about my organization beforehand, right? So that is one way in which I can avoid sounding canned, because AI will also adopt the writing style of whatever sample I fed. And I would not rely on ChatGPT knowing which organization you are, especially if you're a small organization. So ChatGPT always says, there are limitations on its information because all its information is up to September 2021 or something. So if you were founded after that, there's no chance for you to be in there in the first place. But this is generally not information that ChatGPT would have stored. So the workaround is to share as much detail and information as you can. So that is also the caveat with data, right? So I can ask ChatGPT to provide me impact data on, on effectiveness of youth mentoring programs. When I ask for references, these references have often been made up. That's an experience across the board that I heard many times. So what you can do instead is feed your own, basically say these are, or you can, with different versions of ChatGPT, you can even attach reports, for example, and say, please use the data in this report to support my grant application, or you just copy paste it. So these are general outcomes or effectiveness impact measures of youth development programs. Please use them for this report. And you always need to check, right? Because you cannot rely, and you should not rely on ChatGPT. Okay, so do you then copy and paste into a document? Yeah, exactly. You can just copy paste that right off ChatGPT and then create your own document on your own letterhead. So Whitney says, if multiple orgs are putting very similar prompts into the same AI platform around the same time, working on the same grant, is it possible that the AI platform would produce nearly identical letters for many applications? Of course, that is always a risk. But as I just said, it all depends on the personalization that you provide, right? So identical letters, yes, that's possible. So what you can do is say, write in a, you can prompt ChatGPT to write in a specific style. That is one way in which you could, distinguish yourself from that very generic sounding ChatGPT language. As I said, it's all about the personalization. Whichever information you feed, it will take into consideration. Okay, so Aisha says she writes first and see if it's better language, and she borrows from ChatGPT. Exactly, yeah, and that's how I use ChatGPT too. I sometimes use it to get myself started on something. I use it to rewrite something that I have written, to adopt a different voice, just to try it out, what it would be like. So it's a tool that can help you. I would never, and I have seen that on social media where people obviously just copy paste it from ChatGPT and it sounds awful and you can hear it, you can read it. And that is a surefire way, honestly, to break trust with your donors, with the grant maker, because nobody wants to read that. If you pay for ChatGPT 4, it may be more current than 2021. Actually, I'm not 100% sure. I don't think so. So copy pasting from an Excel spreadsheet, you can easily do that. You just copy paste. It looks weird for you, but ChatGPT can read it. It's not always accurate. Statistical analysis is not a great, ChatGPT is not extremely great at statistical analysis. There are plugins that can do, or that are better at data analysis, but that's where I have my limitations. I tried that. I did not understand how this works. Yeah, but you can do analysis, and I have done analysis of specific data, and it does work. You can just copy paste. I mean, try it out, right? Nothing can break. But fact check. You can put attachments in if you have the upgraded version, the ChatGPT 4 version that Toby was referring to. Why does ChatGPT use references that are made up? I have no idea. How could we know if they are made up? You check on Google, you just fact check, you go to Google, see whether that journal article exists, that news article exists. Yeah, I would not ask for references. Would it be easier to create templates and or boilerplates? Perhaps ChatGPT can provide data and algorithms that can help the final case making. Easier to create templates and or boilerplates. I think I don't quite understand the question, but I would always, whichever, and we can maybe move on to the next example, how to, let's move on to the next example. I think we discussed grant writing quite a bit. So let's use another example of acting as a thought partner. So if you're an executive director, and this is the majority of folks that I work with, right? you might find yourself in an isolated position. Or if you're at the top of the organization, you may or may not have peers that you regularly exchange with, but there is either the board who are supervising you, right? And then there is staff who you are supervising. So you are in this kind of isolated position as any executive director or CEO, and you just lack that thought partner that you can go out to and ask, hey, I have this problem. I don't really know how to approach it. So let's use ChatGPT in that way. So let's go back, start a new chat. Let's pull up my prompts. So one often cited ailment of executive directors is that staff is not doing the things they need to do. If you have staff, if you don't have staff, maybe if you don't have staff, it's volunteers that go haywire, or it's the board that is interfering with your day-to-day operations, and you want to put a stop on that, but you don't really know how to navigate that situation. So I like using ChatGPT just to get some ideas going. And let's say we have the following situation. I'm an executive director. I'm supervising a grant writer, but our grant writer frequently doesn't follow instructions. Please create a performance improvement plan for the grant writer. Okay, so that's my prompt. And obviously I get some sort of response. The recommendation is to define expectations, clear communication channels, provide training and resources. So, and each of the ideas or recommendation comes with different sub bullet points, right? So develop a detailed checklist, create a comprehensive checklist that outlines the step-by-step process for grant writing. I like that. That's always helpful, right? So I'll ask ChatGPT, I like that idea, develop a detailed checklist. Okay, please create a detailed checklist for the grant writer. I can say your recommendation number 4. It's just like talking to a human, right? Just like you're talking to an assistant who can help you with executing simple things, but who you have to closely supervise to do the right thing. So basically I'll say your recommendation number 4. So that's what I want ChatGPT to do. So please create a detailed checklist. So I used to write grants for a long time. I always had a checklist, so did I check with the finance department? Did I, review all the attachments, etc. So that was super helpful. The funding opportunity announcement, interesting wording that ChatGPT uses, but I guess the RFP, the grant guidelines, right? Okay, identify the grant's objectives, ensure alignment. Okay, I could use that. I mean, it's maybe not exactly what I wanted, but it gives me a starting point. So that's okay. I mean, we can always edit it, give more prompts. We can just use this and develop our own thing. So now we have this thought partner, right? So what should I be doing? What sort of performance plan? So the pitfall that I would like to point out here is that that this might not exactly be the right thing, right? So you may think, okay, I talked to them 100 times. They are still not getting it. So I need to put them on a performance plan. But what's actually going on is that maybe your grant writer is going through a divorce, right? Or they have depression, a neurodivergence. They just find it very, very hard to follow instructions. So it's not their fault. And in using the wrong prompt, you're not getting to the core of the problem. So the prompt is the important thing. And that's where your expertise as the executive director, as the fundraiser comes in, right? So let's say if you describe the problem in a different way, right? If you don't say what exactly you want from ChatGPT, you can say, okay, so I'm an executive director of a small nonprofit organization with 4 staff and no HR department. So the more context you provide, the better your results will be. Problem is, our grant writer repeatedly doesn't follow instructions. They are often defensive when I raise the issue with them. I lack the time to supervise them closely. What should I do? So let's ask, let's take a step back and try to understand, okay, what is actually the problem here? Or how can I think about this problem in the first place? I mean, I'm super frustrated. I talked 100 times with them. They're still not getting it. So what should I do? Let's ask ChatGPT. What I like is they always empathize with you, or ChatGPT always empathizes with you before it gives any recommendations. It sometimes feels good. Okay, so here we are, we are getting a little more balanced, a little more balanced viewpoint on what I could be doing. So I can schedule a meeting with them. ChatGPT even makes recommendations how that meeting should go about. Voice your concerns, listen, allow the grant writer to share their perspective. All right, okay. So monitor performance is just one of the recommendations, right? It's not the recommendation. So that helps me get my thoughts going. So what I wanted to allude to is the pitfall being that ChatGPT will not consider all the contextual factors, right? So it will take whichever prompt you feed ChatGPT or any tool that you're using, but it will not automatically consider, okay, what else could be going on. Just with our grant writing example, it will write the grant for you. It will not tell you that grant writing is the right strategy for you. That's where you as a human come in. Okay, so let's go to the last example. Oh, we are already at 2:50. Help with donor communication. So I think that is a frequent concern. Also came in my in my survey that I the webinar registration. That was a frequent concern. So let me show you how to best use. Oh, and I think I missed the chat. So let's start a new chat. Okay, so what I wanted to do originally was go back to this chat, because this thread, that was the thread where I was asking ChatGPT to create a grant application for me, right? So this chat already has all the background information about my sample organization, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. So we have all the information fed into ChatGPT. Now we need a template. I think someone was asking about a template. So what I did here is I went to classy.org. They have tons of templates, right? So I think these are 9 email templates for your nonprofit annual communication plan. Okay, awesome. So I want help with communications. It's costing me a lot of time. I don't know what to say. I just need to get that stuff out because my donors need to hear from me. So I have this template, celebrate National Dog Day with us. So what am I going to do? I am going to say, please create an email about National Mentoring Day, because I'm a mentoring organization, right? I'm Big Brothers, Big Sisters USA. I'm not a dog organization, so I'm using this template, but I want it for National Mentoring Day, not for National Dog Day or whatever it is. So I want you to write an email about National Mentoring Day using the information about my organization above, based on this template. So now I go back to the template, copy the template, paste it. Let's see whether ChatGPT can do that. Okay. It seems as if ChatGPT was able to replace every mention of the dog. What is the National Day? National Dog Day. It's literally National Dog Day. I did not know that there was a National Dog Day. It just automatically replaced National Mentoring Day with National Dog Day, the other way around. Okay, so that sounds awesome. So in just no time, I have an email template. So now the pitfall is obviously, the risks that we mentioned before, sounding canned, or it might not be personalized, right? So we can handle that by now because we just feed more information. Actually, you see ChatGPT even, and that's something we would need to check. Is this really your Twitter handle or your Facebook handle? So you need to check on that. But ChatGPT made an educated guess that this might be your handle. So now let's imagine that suddenly we get really good and really effective or efficient at creating all of these donor communications. If I was a donor of this organization, I would have question marks. The problem might be that the communications are not personalized at all. I'm also like, I've never heard from this organization before, and suddenly they are sending me 10 emails a month. So what's going on? So that can hurt your actual authentic relationships with your donors. But there is a way that you can avoid that. And I want to show you that, how to use ChatGPT to analyze qualitative data. In my experience, ChatGPT is really good at analyzing qualitative data, not so good at quantitative data. So your Excel spreadsheets, you can play around with it. Actually, the way I use ChatGPT is to give me the right prompts for Excel. I asked ChatGPT, I want to compare 2 Excel sheets. What is the function I need to use? And it will give me the exact function. I just copy paste it and I'm done. So that's how I use it. I don't feed data. And obviously, I mean, I should not even have to mention that. Obviously, you want to protect your donors' privacy, right? Don't put donor data in there. No contact details, nothing identifiable about your donor. What you can do, in my estimation, is input information about their giving behavior, because that's not something that is compromising their or revealing their identity. Anything that could reveal their identity, don't put it in there, right? In fact, I do have this, I found this opt-out form on, where is it? Can't find it now. I found this opt-out form on the OpenAI platform. So if you want, you can opt out of them using your information. I just put the link in the chat, and I'm rushing a little bit because we have 4 minutes left. So what I wanted to do now is exactly the qualitative analysis. Let's assume you sent out a survey to all of your donors. They answered something. And that is where bias actually comes in, right? So you have your human bias. You also have AI bias. And now you need to find the middle ground. So what ChatGPT would do is remove your human bias. You might be more prone to consider the negative reviews or the negative remarks that you get on your survey. Whereas AI might have a racial bias, right? So because a lot of information that is fed into AI is based on our structural racism in our society, right? So it will likely reproduce some of the biases that we as a society have, right? So we need to be mindful of that. But we also have a human bias, right? So ChatGPT can actually help with the human bias. So what I'm doing here, I found these donor testimonials just to give you an idea how we can use ChatGPT to analyze qualitative data. So the prompt I'm going to use is, so I want to understand, okay, what are the top 3 reasons? And I think I should just create a new chat. Please provide me with the top 3 reasons my donors give to our organization. I'm copying this. I paste it into ChatGPT. And it will go through this data set. Obviously, that is not a huge data set, but if you surveyed 150 donors and 150 donors got back to you, you would want to understand, okay, what are the common threads here, right? And yeah, ChatGPT gives me, some an overview of the top 3 reasons my donors give to me. So that's how you can use ChatGPT for data analysis. And since I found all of this information online, right? So this person has obviously agreed to have their data shared on the web, so I can use that information. If it was my donor, I would obviously remove the name and only use the testimonial. All right, so basically that, oh no. We are coming to our end. Sorry, I got a little long here. I'm happy to stay on. So if anyone has a question they want to ask, I'm super happy to stay on and talk a little more. I just want to wrap up so that those of you who have to leave can leave. So I hope to have given an overview of the promises and pitfalls that we need to consider when working with AI tools, just like ChatGPT. And there are so many out there, right? So we discussed grant writing. We discussed, sounding canned and not personal. We also discussed how we can personalize it more in actually feeding more context, right? We can also feed context about a specific donor. This donor has given to us for 10 years. They're really excited about youth mentoring or the incarceration program. So please personalize this template with the information I just provided, right? So there are workarounds, and all is to say that there is definitely a huge potential in leveling the playing field for all of us in the nonprofit sector, but we need to be very, very mindful of the pitfalls out there. So if you remember one thing, I would encourage you to adopt that mindset. There is opportunities and there are risks if we don't consider how we can use this for our organizations. But there are also pitfalls of just blindly jumping into it and not discussing it with staff who might have their own objections, right? So that's it for today.